Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here and welcome to another episode of Jambareeqi Cinema, the podcast series where I talk about films that have hit UK theatres. In this episode, I'll be discussing Disney's new live-action remake of The Lion King. When the new Lion Prince, Simba, is born, his father Mufasa tries to prepare him for leadership, but Simba lets all this future power go to his head. His jealous uncle Scar plots to overthrow the throne with help from a pack of hungry hyenas. Scar makes little Simba wait in a gorge, the hyenas set off a stampede, and Scar calls Mufasa to rescue the prince. Mufasa manages to save Simba, but struggles to climb out of the gorge, only for his brother Scar to throw him off the edge. Simba survives the stampede, so Scar guilts the cub into thinking he killed Mufasa and orders the hyenas to chase Simba. But the prince gets away. While grieving in the desert, Simba ends up befriending a meerkat called Timon and a warthog called Pumbaa, who teach him to survive in the jungle on a diet of bugs. However, Simba's childhood friend Nala finds Simba in the jungle and urges the prince to take his rightful place on the throne. So visually, this is a very beautiful looking movie. The cinematography captures the African landscape's beauty with stunning wide angles, making for some gorgeous backgrounds for the scenes. Plus, the photorealistic animals are impressively detailed. It's amazing how far visual effects have come. But here's the problem. The film is so determined to wow audiences with how realistic the animals look that they've ended up having to sacrifice the emotion, personality, and drama of the story. I never felt any emotions while watching these scenes, didn't have any empathy for the characters, and wasn't bothered where things were going. This is all because I'm not watching characters. I'm watching real animals with blank expressionless faces and body movement that's glued to staying as realistic as possible. So much heart is taken away because the movie is so dependent on impressing audiences on the novelty of how photorealistic these lines are. It's also very hard to tell lines apart, because they're all designed to look as much like real lines as possible. I frequently struggle to tell the difference between adult Simba and Scar, or Nala and Sarabi, unless we saw a close-up on Scar's face or a character's name was mentioned by someone else. In terms of story, this is the Disney remake of an animated film that's the most pointless yet, because it's pretty much an exact duplicate of the original. A scene-by-scene, beat-for-beat clone. So much of the script is just made up of direct quotes from the original film. This remake is banking so much on audiences' nostalgic memories that it ends up just being the same film, just more realistic looking. There are differences, but it's a stretch to call any of them changes at all, because really, Disney have just extended scenes, needlessly dragged conversations out with more dialogue, or made small details into huge whole sequences. From having Timon and Pumbaa over-explain the philosophy of Hakuna Matata, to dedicating a long scene to the mouse that Scar hunts at the start of the film. The film even chronicles the adventures of Simba's molted fur across various animal communities, just to find a more realistic reason for how Rafiki discovers that Simba is alive, despite the movie later revealing that an afterlife does exist in this movie's world. I'm sorry, but I really liked the ambivalence of the original scene. Is it Mufasa really communicating with Rafiki through the weather, or is Rafiki overreading the wind? It's never clear, and that added some mysterious mysticism to Rafiki's character. There's also a whole scene dedicated to Nala escaping Pride Rock to find help, a scene that wasn't entirely necessary. We never really questioned it in the original film. Movie, not everything needs to be explained to the audience. The film also tries to flesh out a few female characters, like making Shenzi be the leader of the hyenas and showing Nala riling up the lionesses during Scar's tyranny. But these details don't drastically alter the overall film or change the story's outcome. They just mean longer scenes and more dialogue. It's good to see these characters in bigger positions, but they already showed strong character in the original film. Shenzi was always the smartest and most competent of the hyenas, and Nala was already a tough lioness who was willing to lecture Simba on responsibility. These aren't bold, new improvements. The film is just putting louder emphasis on things that were already in the original. The film is very proud of its star-studded cast, and for the most part, the voice performances are just okay. Because the animation is far more stoic and deadpanned this time, actors are being asked to project less and be more low-key, which just makes their voices too serious and less exciting. Casting James Earl Jones as Mufasa may have been a fateful decision, but it adds to the overall lack of uniqueness to the film. He's just doing the same performance all over again, but with less enthusiasm. The comic relief voice actors like John Oliver, Billy Eichner, and Seth Rogen are the only actors being allowed to project themselves. But like I said, this film really likes to overextend scenes with extra dialogue, making the more comedic characters seem too desperate to get laughs. Because they're relentlessly throwing jokes, most of which aren't that funny, it's all just rambling. The film's music score is just the exact same as the original films. No, really, Disney have just slapped Hans Zimmer's score onto this remake. The film is unoriginal enough as it is, but now it's just recycling the same compositions. Yes, this score has been recorded and mixed with today's technology, but it's still the same cues and strings, just louder and bigger. This is also the audience can feel emotionally triggered by nostalgic memories and remember feelings they had watching this film as kids. It's very manipulative. If you play music from a film from the audience's childhood while recreating the scene that the music is from, then of course they're going to get really emotional. It's an easy way for Disney to bring strong feelings out of their viewers with as little effort as possible. There are musical numbers, but because the film is aiming for realism more than anything, there's much less imagination to the visuals. These are colourful Broadway-style songs, but the film can't be too ambitious because its inspiration is to look like a nature documentary. Even if you want to see this film as a sing-along experience, you'll be let down because the lyrics to Be Prepared have been drastically altered. These changes are all in favour of the movie's more serious take on Scar. Scar is already now just a generic bad guy because all his campy malice has been taken away, but Be Prepared is now this boring, slow song with no personality or humour. To conclude, while this Lion King remake is a cinematic spectacle and a great demonstration of modern CGI technology, it lacks a lot of the charm, heart, and emotion of the original. If I was to best describe this movie, it's like watching an advanced robot play Dance Dance Revolution. Sure, they're hitting the right arrows, but you can tell it's all programmed and there's no soul. Its narrative is a copy and paste effort, ticking off each scene it recreates like it's bound to the duty of a checklist. There are changes here and there, but they're not big enough to shake the story up or take things in a clever new direction. They're mainly alterations to make the film longer, fit the photorealistic visuals, or respond to overthinking criticisms towards the original. I really didn't enjoy this movie. I actually wanted to go to sleep most of the time. I was that bored and disconnected by the film. It relies so much on audiences enjoying the pretty visuals and nostalgic memories being brought back by familiar scenes that it forgets to actually be a standalone unique film, making for one of the most pointless and unnecessary remakes I've ever seen. Right from when this remake was announced, I knew that it was just a sneaky way for Disney to capitalize on one of their biggest box office successes in animation history, and nothing about the finished film has convinced me otherwise. This is nostalgia exploitation at its worst, and it just makes me feel sad. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Cheerio, folks.